Hello, Americans. You don't have to watch the news every day to realize that gas is expensive. But many Americans may be wondering why gas prices have risen over 10% in the past week and over 70% since Biden was inaugurated in 2020. Well, before I explain the main influencers of these rising prices, I feel like it's important to explain what factors actually contribute to the price of gasoline. Most influential on the price of gasoline at the pump in the United States is the worldwide price of crude oil, as the U.S. imports about 72% of its crude oil for the creation of gasoline. Another factor that contributes to the gasoline prices is the process of refining the crude oil into usable gasoline. The cost of this process changes seasonally, as when gasoline is in higher demand, more chemicals must be added to the crude oil to make the gasoline burn cleaner. The last two factors that determine the cost of gasoline at the pump are distribution of the refined gasoline to pumps across the country and the taxes placed on the gasoline by the government, which varies heavily based on location, which is why gas is so much more expensive in places like California than in places like Texas. So now that we know what we're paying for at the pump, let's talk about the specific circumstances increasing the cost of gasoline today. There's a myriad of factors that are contributing to these high gas prices. Most recently, you could refer to the ban on all oil and gas being imported from Russia due to the ongoing situation in Ukraine. This is one of the more significant factors, as although the U.S. only gets about 3.5% of its crude oil from Russia, we import a huge percentage of our actual gasoline from the country. As according to a report from Forbes, 21% of all the gasoline that the United States imports comes from Russia. This means that we have to spend money purchasing crude oil from other countries, and even more money refining that oil into usable gasoline. In my very humble opinion, this was a good move on Joe Biden's part, as there is no reasonable justification for supporting the Russian economy in any way, shape, or form in a time like this. Some people are saying that to supplement the loss of this gasoline from Russia, the United States should dip into our natural oil reserves to offset the loss of this outside source. And to be honest, I agree with them. Although environmental conservation is extremely important, I believe that the circumstances we're experiencing now warrant a temporary indulgence of our country's natural resources. But of course, this is not the only factor contributing to the high gas prices. In addition to this fairly recent development, gas prices have been increasing because of the current administration placing more and more taxes on the refining and distribution of gasoline in an effort to make positive impacts on the environment. One of these notable tax increases was Joe Biden raising the tax on ethanol in 2021, which made the cost of refining gasoline increase drastically. The reason for this tax was to promote the use of more environmentally sustainable forms of energy, which was one of Biden's campaign promises. I believe that this was not necessarily a bad choice, as I'm very much pro-environmental conservation, but it's just a shame that it has to come at the cost of the American people's money. Perhaps the most notable consequence of Joe Biden's fight to save the environment was the closing of the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, the closure of this pipeline has been a heavily debated topic between Democrats and Republicans, as it would have drastically lowered the price of gasoline by lowering the cost of distribution by a huge margin. And it would have allowed us to save money because the oil produced by this pipeline would come from American soil. So the only money needed would have to be spent on extraction and refining of the oil. However, Democrats like Joe Biden protested this pipeline, as it would have caused severe damage to the environment, potentially destroying the ecosystems of animals across North America, and even polluting potential sources of drinking water for people in the vicinity of the pipeline. Now, in my opinion, the pipeline is already built, and it costed millions of dollars to build. So once again, I believe the use of this pipeline is warranted considering the current circumstances befalling the United States. Well, that's why gas is so expensive at the moment. Thank you so much for listening. And now, let me pass it to Roman for our next story.
Thank you, Rohan. Today, we're going to be talking about some stuff going on in the NFT space right now. There was recently a rug pull that an NFT project just ran, and they scammed over $1.3 million from its buyers. They completely ghosted the buyers, they took all the money, and now the buyers are left standing still without an NFT and without their money. So today we're going to be covering the details about this scam, and we're going to be talking about what are the best practices in order to make sure that this does not happen to you or any person that is coming into the NFT space. These are not fun stories to cover, but at the same time, they're extremely necessary because people do need to be aware of the scams that are going out there. The crypto and the NFT space is still incredibly new, and with it being so new, there are a ton of scams and a ton of bad actors out there trying to take your money, your crypto, and your NFTs. So like I said, hopefully the story is going to be able to provide a little bit of value in order to make sure that this does not happen in the future. Let's hop straight to it and talk about this atrocious scam. Now, to start you off with some details about what happened, there was an NFT project on Solana, an NFT trading company, that was called Big Daddy Ape Club. These NFTs were set to release on January 11th, and there was a total of 2,022 of these apes. They were going for 1.11 SOL each, which is equivalent to around $120. To get further into it, this NFT project was promoting themselves like any other NFT project. They would run advertisements, they would have Twitter, they would have a Discord, and getting people excited for the release of these NFTs was crucial for them. Keep in mind, the team and the founders did not reveal themselves to the public, so as for what everyone knows right now, they are anonymous founders. They did verify with something called the Civic Pass, and basically what it is that the company itself, the Civic Pass, identifies who the founders and team are behind a certain project. They get different identification in terms of their name as well as a 3D scan of their face, and from that point on, the Civic Pass goes on their Twitter to say that the collection has been verified by them and that the creators have a public identity. This exists for people who want to continue to be anonymous, but at the same time want to add trust to the community of people that are looking forward to buying their NFTs. So like I said, it's basically a trust thing. And if they have a Civic Pass, they've been identified and their identity has been verified by this company. So that in itself provided more trust for the people who are initially interested in purchasing these NFTs. Now to get into the heart of the story, when this NFT collection was releasing, they completely sold out all of their NFTs. But the buyers of those NFTs realized they did not receive an NFT even though they sent out the initial mint price for one. The creators were able to pocket 9,136 SOL, which is equivalent to $1.3 million. And after those founders were able to pocket $1.3 million, no surprise, they deleted all their social media accounts, deactivated their Discord server, and now they have completely gone ghost, leaving the buyers of these supposed NFTs absolutely nothing. This is some of the worst crap I've ever seen in the NFT space, and it makes it one of the largest NFT scams that has ever happened. After this was confirmed as a rug pull and a scam, the Civic company, which was the one who verified this NFT collection, released a few statements, and we can read right here that the entire team at Civic has been working as quickly as possible on several targeted responses to the reported BDAC, which is the name of the NFT collection. They go on to say that they are actively collaborating with other community members as well as some marketplaces among others to look at this event and will fully support any formal investigation led by the appropriate authorities. Keep in mind that they have the identification of these individuals. That means if there was an investigation that was conducted, they could reveal that information to the authorities, and in a further update, they did say that they are in direct contact with US-based authorities and will be fully cooperating with them. They are encouraged to report this step in the right direction, and even the CEO released a statement. The CEO does mention right here that founder verification includes an ID document capture and a 3D face scan that is compared to the 2D capture. It would be pretty difficult to fake this, so if the BDAC founders were able to fake something like this, that would just be super unfortunate because that type of verification is pretty tough to fake. We are all hoping these individuals who ran this rug pull and scam get caught. And at the same time, the people who lost money in all this get their money back. Because it's a super unfortunate circumstance and no one wants to see it happen. This is a terrible representation of what the NFT and crypto space is. You never like to see this because this is what grabs headlines. You're going to have mainstream news outlets as well as criticizers of NFTs and crypto hop on this and spread the word that everything involved with crypto and NFTs are scams. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of scams in this space, but at the same time, there's a lot of great things that are happening in this space as well. So don't let this event completely turn you away from the NFT marketplace. Now, I'm going to pass this segment on to Allison Long.
My story is about Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds and the anti-transgender legislation she signed into law on Thursday, March 3rd. It is a bill that prohibits transgender females from participating in girls' high school sports and women's college athletics. Even through all of the backlash that the state of Florida was given after passing the Parental Rights in Education bill, dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill, she rejected all opponents' arguments that she would harm vulnerable children to solve a non-existent problem. I understand that there have been cases in which trans women have broken records in women's sports, but the argument that there are men going through hormones and transitioning just to dominate women's sports is absurd. Reynolds signed the bill at a ceremony in the Capitol just a day after lawmakers sent it to her desk. It passed the House and Senate with only Republican support. The Republican governor called the signing a celebration of victory for girls' sports, saying, quote, "No amount of talent, training, or effort can make up for the natural physical advantages males have over females. It's simply a reality of human biology. Forcing females to compete against males is the opposite of inclusivity, and it's absolutely unfair," end quote. Her words are not only harmful to trans women, but to all women, as she discredits the talent and abilities of female athletes, and this is coming from a woman. Republican leaders have made the bill effective immediately, so any transgender students playing sports may be required to immediately stop. We are currently unsure of how many athletes this will affect. The Senate Democratic leader Zach Wahls said, quote, "Because the legislation would go into effect as soon as the governor signs it, she is showing once again that she is more interested in scoring political points than caring about the impact of legislation on some of the most marginalized kids in our society," end quote. To back what Wahls said, here are some statistics concerning attempted suicide rates in transgender teens from the American Academy of Pediatrics. More than half of transgender male teens who participated in the survey reported attempting suicide in their lifetime, while 30% of transgender female teens said they have attempted suicide. Among the non-binary youth, 41.8% of respondents stated that they had attempted suicide at some point in their lives. Along with this, the depression and self-harm rates in these youth is significantly higher than teens who identify with their gender assigned at birth. These statistics are heartbreaking, and there is more we can do to help these kids who face discrimination on the daily. Being able to participate and play in sports and having supportive teammates is one of the best support systems these youth can have outside of family and friends, and that is being taken away from them. The bill requires students participating in interscholastic sports sponsored or sanctioned by an accredited non-public school or a public school district to play only with others that match the gender listed on their birth certificate. It also has provisions to allow civil lawsuits to uphold the intent of the law. The bill applies to sports from primary school grades into state universities and colleges. A Des Moines public school spokesman, Phil Roeder, said it was not immediately clear how schools are expected to implement the law. The district's lobbyist opposed the bill because it believes the legislation discriminates against transgender girls and women, and the district is concerned it conflicts with federal anti-discrimination laws. Our school district welcomes and supports LGBTQ students and providing them with the opportunities they deserve, he said. Iowa will join 10 other Republican states with such laws. Some have faced court challenges alleging violations of constitutional rights and federal non-discrimination laws. These states are Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Idaho, Mississippi, Montana, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia. In related news, Governor of Texas Greg Abbott has sent a letter to the Department of Family Services instructing them to start investigating the parents of any transgender youth in state for child abuse. In this, he also said that doctors and teachers were obligated to report any children who are transitioning. Many teens are already not able to come out or transition because they are not safe in their own homes, and this will only make it worse. But I hope that other states will not follow suit, but it is likely that they will. Now, my opinion on this, as a biologically female but non-binary identifying athlete, hearing these words from a woman in power hurts and can make women unsure of their own abilities. In her argument, she does not acknowledge that trans women are women and routinely calls them men, which is both invalidating and incorrect. In my 6 years of playing girls' club volleyball, I have met and played against trans women. There was nothing different with playing against them, and none of my or her teammates cared, but it was the parents who had an issue with this, proving where the prejudice lies. If the people in positions of power who write and pass this legislation could spend 5 minutes with the people who their laws will affect, it would make our society much more accepting of those who may be different than us and greatly help those who need the support.
Locally in the Golden State of California, oil spills have been polluting our coastline and ruining our ocean habitats. Recently in October 2021, there was an oil spill due to a leak in an oil line spanning from Amplify Energy's offshore drilling platform to the coast of Huntington Beach. This leak spilled approximately 25,000 gallons, shutting down California beaches for nearly 2 weeks. Spills like this have aggravated a lot of Californians as there has been a growing movement to preserve our environment and reserve the impact our industrial society has had on the earth. This is seen with recent legislation being passed in California, especially under Governor Gavin Newsom, such as recent bills that have banned the production of gas-powered vehicles and restrictions on greenhouse gas emissions companies are allowed to produce. The recent oil spill off the Orange County coast has inspired an Orange County legislator, Dave Min, to propose a bill that would end offshore oil drilling indefinitely and would immediately protect our coastlines from oil spills. This legislation would affect 11 oil leases all off the Orange and Ventura County coastlines. It would also allow the State Lands Commission, the agency with oversight of those contracts, to negotiate voluntary relinquishment of the leases by oil companies before the state takes action. The cost of buying out or rescinding these leases is unclear, though the size of the industry suggests that the price tag could possibly cost the state tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Dave Mintz says that action is necessary to protect the California coastline from another catastrophic oil spill, similar to the one in October, which caused widespread environmental damage and led to the beach closures that hurt the economies of the Orange County coastal communities. The oil rigs off the coast and their aging infrastructure are continuing to pose a serious threat to California's coast, and this needs to be put to an end. He has gone to the point where he is referring to offshore drilling as a ticking time bomb. Another advocate for this bill, such Miyoki Sakashita, Oceans director at the Center for Biological Diversity, has stated that it's time to get this dirty, dangerous, and utterly reckless industry out of our coastal waters. However, this bill does not solely come with the complete satisfaction for every party. Mintz's bill, in reality, would only affect 3 active oil platforms off the Orange County coast that are being operated by 2 leaseholders: the California Resources Corp and DCOR oil companies. This is opposed to the 4 oil platforms that are on the California coastline and the 11 leases that give these companies the right to drill. The bill would make these companies' leases end early, with all the leases being terminated by December 31st, 2023. This is important as these leases originally had no set end date and have been going on for over half a century. The termination of these leases would require these companies to be compensated for the lost revenue and would classify as a government seizing. This would probably end a class action lawsuit and would most likely cost California taxpayers billions of dollars. Mintz's bill would also not affect the 23 oil platforms in federal waters either, which are located beyond a 3-mile buffer from the state coastline, or the pipelines that run from those facilities through the state waters. That includes the oil platform and pipeline involved in the recent oil spill. Oil spills operating on the artificial lands off the coast of Long Beach, which are owned by the city, also would not be affected by this legislation. In my opinion, this legislation has a very good basis and has a lot of potential to continue pushing California's environmentally friendly agenda. However, I feel for true change to occur that these legislative choices need to be more aggressive, and they would need to put all offshore drilling to an end that is taking place past state coastlines. However, this is a great first step for California to start protecting their ecosystems. I also believe this would be a great alternative to a feared eventual ending to the oil industry, where they leave their platforms in the middle of the ocean while they are protected by bankruptcy claims. This would eventually put the heavy lifting of removing these tankers onto the California taxpayers once again. So overall, this is a good move for California legislation to make, and will be rough but beneficial as the good will eventually outweigh the bad.
Our heartwarming story comes from the city of Denver, Colorado, where the city is now deploying mental health teams instead of police to certain calls and seeing huge successes from it. Since June 2020, the Support Team Assisted Response, also known as STAR, has deployed medical and behavioral health clinicians to respond to over 2,200 low-risk calls reporting trespassing, intoxication, or mental health crises including poverty, homelessness, or addiction. In all that time, STAR teams have never called for police backup due to a safety issue, according to their January report. In January, the City Council unanimously allocated a $1.4 million contract for the STAR's program expansion, paying for 5 additional white vans and hiring 7 clinicians, 4 paramedics, and 2 emergency medical technicians. The Denver Post reports that STAR teams have driven hundreds of miles, assisted suicidal people and schizophrenics. They've also handed out water and socks and connected people to shelters, food, and resources. STAR's advisory team, consisting of 15 volunteer citizens, hope that with 6 vans they can respond to more than 10,000 calls a year. Funding for the expansion was bolstered by a $1.4 million grant from the Caring for Denver Foundation. Bob McDonald, Executive Director and Public Health Administrator for the City of Denver, says that this innovative approach, meeting people where they are with the right services at the right time, is a game changer for Denver. Importantly, it is also saving money for the city. If the STAR vans can help someone in a crisis, that frees up police to handle a robbery or domestic violence call. STAR is minimizing unnecessary arrests and unnecessary costs, whether that be jail costs or emergency room costs, Councilwoman Robin Kanish says. Denver residents can specifically request STAR assistance by calling these two STAR numbers, this one for emergencies and this one for non-emergencies. Chris Richardson, the Medical Health Center of Denver's Associate Director of Criminal Justice, says that when STAR pulls up, people in crisis can be assured that two non-judgmental, client-centered, supportive people who are willing to help and listen are getting out of that van to help. Other cities in Colorado, including Pueblo, Colorado Springs, and Fort Collins, have called Denver with intentions to start similar emergency services to dispatch unarmed health professionals. Nearby Aurora was among the first to replicate the model, launching their Aurora Mobile Response Team in September. Data collected from the 759 residents served so far that nearly 3/4 had been medically diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenic anxiety, or major depression. I believe that with the overwhelming success of this new program, we will be seeing more and more cities implementing teams like this. These teams not only save the city tons of money, but it is also impacting the people who need this kind of help in such a significant way. We have seen in recent years that police are not efficiently and effectively trained to handle these low-risk calls dealing with mental health issues, and so I believe a program like this is so beneficial to not only the city, but also to the police in the city who need longer to respond to these calls. And the health of the citizens who are getting... Fuck. It won't fucking scroll up. I can't see the bottom part.
Just keep recording.
I can't see the bottom of the...
It's fine. Keep that video recording. I'll just cut it all out. But I just want to keep it like in sync so I don't have to match it up again.
I'll start. But also to the police in the city who no longer need to respond to these calls, and the health of the citizens who are getting the proper help they need. Like Denver Police Chief Paul Rudd. Fuck, dude. Hold up. Okay. We're gonna start from We have seen in recent years that police are not efficiently and effectively trained to handle these low-risk calls dealing with mental health issues, and so I believe a program like this is so beneficial to not only the city, but also to the police in the city who no longer need to respond to these calls, and the health of the citizens who are getting the proper help they need. Like Denver Police Chief Paul Pazin said in a 2020 interview with the Denver Post, it's the future of law enforcement.
Can I just start off by getting your name and how old you are?
Carrie Lambert. I'm age 41.
All right, thank you. And are you vaccinated?
I am.
Do you have the boosters?
I did get the booster, yeah.
All right. So prior to the mask mandate being lifted, what was your view on the masks in the classroom?
I personally did not like it, just because I don't like having to wear a mask and it muffled and I couldn't hear what the kids were saying. Plus, research has said that a lot of different types of masks, like cloth masks, really don't do a lot of good. I think if you have an N95, then obviously that's going to be a lot more protected, but I'm kind of glad it was lifted.
All right. So that leads pretty well into my next question. Do you think this was a good time to lift the mandate? Do you think maybe they should have done it sooner or waited a little longer?
That's a tough question, because COVID's going to be around forever. It's a virus, right? It's going to mutate. I think it was a good time to lift the mandate. It probably could have been done sooner, just because we have a lot of people that have been vaccinated, and so you do have more of that herd immunity going on. But I'm glad they did it now and didn't wait until next year.
All right, perfect. And now that the mandate's been lifted, are you still going to be wearing a mask in the classroom?
Well, obviously, even though it's lunchtime, I've not been wearing my mask. I really like being able to see students' faces, and I like being able to project my voice without having the mask on. Because even as you can tell now, my voice is like hardly here. It's going away. So I'm glad that I don't have to wear the microphone. Just my little dog collar thing that I had on for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Really appreciate it.
You are very welcome.
Hi. Hello. What is your name and how old are you?
My name is Carly King and I'm 15.
All right. And are you vaccinated?
Yes.
All right. And before the mandate was lifted on the masks, how did you feel about having to wear a mask in the classroom?
It was annoying sometimes, but I didn't really mind it.
Okay. Do you think that they lifted the mandate at a good time, or do you think they should have done it sooner, maybe waited a little longer?
I'm not really sure. I mean, it was kind of just a good random time for me.
And now that the mandate's been lifted, are you still going to wear your mask in the classroom?
I haven't been doing it.
All right. Well, thank you. Could I get just your name and your age real quick?
My name is John Sands,
Mhm.
and I'm 42 years old.
All right. Thank you very much. And are you vaccinated?
I'm not.
You're not vaccinated.
Why do you say it like that?
Well, you're the first person I've interviewed who does not have the vaccine.
That's interesting.
Hence my surprise.
Okay.
All right. And previous to the mask mandate being lifted, what was your opinion on the masks in the classrooms?
In the classrooms, I don't mind. We're in close proximity to one another, and I know a lot of people I shouldn't say enjoy, but a lot of people believe that is helpful in close proximity to one another, especially when we're inside a classroom like this, and especially when you have a large number of kids in a small space. So I don't mind at all. I think people should have the ability to choose.
Okay. And now that the mandate's been lifted, do you think this was a good time to do it? Do you think they should have waited a little longer, maybe lifted the mandate sooner? What's your opinion?
No, I think this is a good time to do it. I mean, we're moving out of the cold and flu season, and so, in my opinion, I think it's a good time. I think people have the right to choose whether they wear a mask or not. If you want to wear a mask, great. If you don't, no big deal.
And this might sound like sort of a silly question considering you're not wearing one now, but do you plan on wearing your mask in the classroom now that the mandate's been lifted?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, Scarlett, I'm 15.
All right. And when the mask mandate was still in effect, how did you feel about it?
Okay,
Okay.
that was okay.
All right, are you vaccinated?
Yeah.
You got your boosters? So, do you feel that the mask mandate was lifted at a good time? Do you think they should have waited, lifted it sooner?
I don't have a problem with when it was lifted.
All right,
It was
thank
okay.
you.
It was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that the mask mandate's been lifted, are you still going to wear your mask in the classroom? All right. Can I start off by getting your name and age?
Brad Kane, I'm 55.
All right, and are you vaccinated?
I am.
All right, do you have your boosters?
No.
All right. Well, previous to the mandate being lifted, what was your opinion of the masks?
They don't protect you from getting it or giving it.
All right, and now that the mandate has been lifted, do you think this is a good time to do it? Do you think they should have lifted it earlier, maybe waited a little longer?
They should have left it up to people to decide to wear a mask or not. In most areas, I think hospitals, health facilities, you could probably mandate people coming in, but in general, unless you wear a new one every day and it's an N95, you are able to completely close it around your face. It's not going to prevent anybody from getting it or giving it. So,
all right, and judging by the answers to my previous questions, I think this is kind of a moot point. But do you plan on wearing your masks now that the mandate's been lifted?
I didn't wear my mask unless they forced me to put it on.
All right.
And many times I just didn't go if they forced me to put it on. So I didn't wear a mask at all.
All right.
Unless I had to.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you answering a few questions. Have a good day. How old are you?
I'm Caden Hernandez, and I'm 15.
You're 15 years old?
Yeah.
Are you vaccinated?
No.
You're not vaccinated?
No, not at all.
All right. Prior to the mandate being lifted, how did you feel about the masks in the classrooms?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really care because you can match them with your style. I was like a mad fire.
Honestly,
I didn't even go cap.
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think they lifted the mandate at a good time? Do you think they should have maybe done it sooner or waited?
I think maybe sooner. I mean, it's whatever, but probably sooner. Yeah.
All right. And now that the mandate's been lifted, are you still going to wear your mask to school?
No, I'm not.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
No problem.
All right. Thanks for agreeing to the interview. Could I get your name and age real quick?
Mr. Dunphy, 39.
All right. And are you vaccinated?
Yes.
All right. Do you have your boosters?
No.
All right. Well, my first question, how did you feel about the mask mandate before they lifted it?
Overall, I thought it was a good thing, and it was a public policy that was for the greater good of the society we live in.
All right. Well, that leads pretty well into my next question. Now that the mandate has been lifted. Do you think it was lifted at an appropriate time? Do you think they should have waited? Do you think they should have lifted it sooner?
I think it was about the right time. If anything, maybe a little bit ahead of time. I just think from a 2-year period, with the number of individuals that got vaccinated, the number of individuals that have had the virus and built up antibodies, is that I think maybe it should be enlisted a little bit earlier, but it's always okay to be more cautious than to take the risk. So about the right time, I think maybe a little bit ahead of time. I mean, when our government does things, I truly believe that it does it for the best of society, even though it's not perfect and make flaws. So I'm good when they lifted it.
And now that the mandate's been lifted, do you plan on continuing to wear a mask while teaching in the classroom?
Obviously, I'm not wearing a mask now, but it's just one of those things. Like, it's one of those things now. I think that people should, if they feel comfortable, that they're more comfortable wearing a mask, then that's great. And everybody should be in an environment where they accept it and doesn't feel that they stand out. And if they choose not to wear a mask, then obviously I think that's a great thing too.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good rest of your day.
All right, pleasure.
What's that noise? Soldier Boy? Okay. Oh, wow. Did you hear? It was just announced that Soldier Boy is having a son. In this video right here, we can watch it. Hey, Soldier Boy, looks like you are gonna be a dad.
Is this Conic?